In this topic, we've been talking about the importance of planning your logic and planning out your program before you start coding it. And in this section, we're looking at 3 different simple tools that can help you do just that. We're looking at pseudocode, flowcharting, and comment outlines. Now, with pseudocode and comment outlines, it's pretty straightforward. Pseudocode, you can just open a text editor like Notepad++ if you like, or whatever you prefer to use. And with comment outlines, you just type your comments straight in to your IDE, be it Visual Studio, Eclipse, or whatever else you may be using for the course. With flowcharts, though, it's a little bit more involved, and drawing flowcharts can be very time-consuming. It's an effective tool, but to be honest with you, it would be a lot quicker for you to just draw them out by hand. But that has the serious drawback of, what if you want to go back and look at your programs and stuff? You can't just open up a file and look at your flowchart and say, oh, well, what did I plan this out? And so that's a big major drawback for drawing out flowcharts by hand. So this video is going to be going over some techniques for creating flowcharts on the computer using software. And the software that we're going to use in the video is LibreOffice Draw. But before I get to that, I do want to make a mention of Microsoft software for doing this. It's called Visio. So Visio is a part of Microsoft Office, but it doesn't come with most distributions of Office. And a lot of times you would need to buy it separately. And yes, I did say buy it. It's not like if you're using Visual Studio, you know all about the community version, the free version, and everything like that. Visio doesn't have anything in particular for that. They do have this test drive here. You can see where they're doing a flowchart, but it does not exactly come cheap. Now, if you're using it every day, it would very well could be worth it. But again, I'll click here and you'll see it's not exactly cheap. So we're going to look at LibreOffice. Now, as a short history, this branched off from OpenOffice that some of you may be familiar with. It was a commonly distributed with Linux. It was available for Linux and Windows, and I think Mac, not sure. But those 2 products, LibreOffice and OpenOffice, split. I cannot remember exactly why. I think there was a good reason. Anyway, now LibreOffice is what's commonly distributed with Linux distributions. If you, let's see, free Office Suite, let's take a quick look. So LibreOffice, it's got things, this is like Word, like Excel, like PowerPoint. You can see some of these things over here. I think that's the Access, that's the little database symbol. So, but we're interested in Draw. We're interested in LibreOffice Draw, and this will allow you to draw flowcharts, and that's what we're going to use in this video. Of course, you could go through this entire course and say, okay, I'm just going to stick to comment outlines for my planning, for my programs. And that's what we're going to do in a lot of the videos, and like when we give solutions to programming challenges. But we will use some flowcharts to help you to visualize what's going on when we're covering new material. And we'll show you also how to do pseudocode when we cover new material. But since you're not really, it's not critical for you to have this software, I'm not going to go through the whole process here of downloading and installing this. You can click here. They will give you an opportunity to make donations for everything. So if if that's in your cards, then that'd be a nice thing to do. But we're not going to go through all of the downloading and installing. Okay, here is the icon that I put on the desktop. Of course, I got a couple open. We'll get to those a little bit later in the video. So you open this up. If you have multiple pages, they'll show up here. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit too. So to zoom in and zoom out, unfortunately it's not going to be very clear. What I'm doing, you've got a little zoom bar down here that you can move things, but with a lot of other programs you can use the little shortcut. Here in Windows, it's holding down the control key and then just scrolling the mouse up and down, and it will zoom in and out for you. A couple of other nifty tools. You can apply a grid. I'm not sure how well that shows up in the video, but there's actually a little grid that you can see behind there. That'll help you to line things up. And this little thing will show some lines when you're moving around. There's a couple of other little tools in View, Grid, and Help lines. Oh, well, I've already displayed that with that. Display snap lines. You can snap to snap lines. That will help things stick together in the right place. Again, here, like with the snap to grid, it will keep things from being so floaty, but it'll help you to line things up better. Okay. You've got some drawing tools over here. The ones we're most interested in are, okay, that's a little confusing. It's not basic shapes. What we're interested in is this one. It says Flowchart. Okay. You click on this, and then here's your shapes. We're mostly just interested in 5 shapes for this course. So as we go through the course, we'll explain the shapes to you. This is more of a tutorial on how to use the software. So you click on this, and then you just draw a rectangle like you want if you need a rectangle. So actually we probably want to make this oh no, it got on that thing. There we go. So I'll just make it that shape. And if you want to change to where it's not got a background or it's got a white background, I'm right clicking here, right click, and then area, and we'll change it to white. Okay. To put text into here, which you'll need for your flowchart, double click it. And obviously this is going to be a little big, so you can right click. Don't click on text, click on character, and you can always at whatever point resize your shapes and your text. I'm going to go with 10 for right now. You can be as detailed as you want with a flowchart, but you'll need to make all of your fonts, smaller, and your shapes bigger, and everything like that. But you can adjust that as you go. So you can just start typing if you hit enter. Okay. So with about this size, so you can fit 2 lines in there. Of course, this is not the only shape that we're going to be using. So let's look at another shape. Again, we want the little flowchart thing. Let's see, what's another good shape to use? Well, we'll just draw. That's not a good example for this. Let's just do one more. Let's use this one. Okay, that's selected, so we'll draw another one. Okay, when I was talking about this thing, I said that would help you. Look, they're showing up. So if you're wanting these to be the same size, that little thing will help you, because see, now you can say they're the same height, and you can move it down underneath it. And obviously they're not the same width, but you can change the width until they're right there. And so they're now the same height and width. And we'll get rid of that blue background. Okay, So you can do that for the other shape. Oh, we didn't change the, let me double click and change the size to 10. Now this may seem tedious, and I think it is. Now, for someone that creates flowcharts regularly or all day, every day, they could probably whip these things out like crazy. But I don't, and I can't, and I assume the same is true for you. Maybe not. But if it's not, then you don't really need this tutorial now, do you? Okay. And so you can create the different shapes. Since this is so tedious, what I recommend is that you go through and create those 5 basic shapes and some arrows. Oh, let's look at the arrows. These are plain arrows, and these are connectors. So these will actually, snap to and connect. Can make it easier, but it can also make it more frustrating. There's a couple that I like in particular. You can play around with these. You may have your favorites, some ones that you're particularly good with. I like this one. We can click here, and see, it will automatically connect when it's red like that. Is connected. So it just connects to those shapes. You can move this out if you want. If I want to move this box, see, it's connected. So that's the connector. Well, it's not in line anymore. There we go. Yeah, it is. Oh, there we go. So you have those tools. Another one that I like is this one. In some ways it's more flexible, and it will create extra bend points and things. You can play around with that one, or you can actually play around with all of them. If you get too frustrated, of course, you can always, just select plain old arrows. One thing, these arrowheads are kind of big for us. I'm going to select that. To change the size of that arrowhead, again, right click, and you might think, oh, I need to change the connector. No, it's actually under line. And for the scale that we're working on here, I think 0.06 is pretty good. And there you go. So that shrinks the size of the head. Okay, so we've covered basic shapes and how to format them. Same with the arrows. Again, this is kind of tedious. So if you're going to be making flowcharts, what I suggest is that you go ahead and do this for all the shapes and kind of set them over to the side as more or less a template. And I'll show you why, because lo and behold, we have one already created right here. All right, this is again, I'm zooming in by holding the control key and using the mouse wheel, and you can see where all of this stuff is in here. Just so that you know, especially this one's not very obvious, which one this is. This is the little square looking thing, okay, and this one, the parallelogram, there you go. So that's that one. And of course we did the process, the little function thing. That's that one. It's got the 2 little lines on the inside. And like I said, this one, it's not exactly obvious what that is. I call that a pill shape. Not sure what you would call it. I just call it a pill shape. Looks like a Tylenol or something. Okay. That one is actually here. You can barely tell it. But see, as you stretch it out, see that the edges get round. So again, you could always line them up and try to get them the same size and everything. Oh, my little thing is off. Here we go. Oh, it's because, yeah, it was a different file. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So you can use those, make sure the same height and width and everything. Height and width. It's going to be a little different for, I'm in the wrong thing. For this, you're going to use these. You're just going to have to kind of figure out what size exactly you want. this is a very important little doodad. Again, we'll show you how to use all of these different shapes, or go back over what they mean as we get to them, but very quick, just in case you're curious. This is some type of calculation that's done, something that's done internal in the computer. This one is used anytime you have an input or an output. This is used for functions or modules. Other programming languages call them methods, things like that. There's something that's separate that you can tell your program, okay, go run this. They're like little mini programs. Like I said, we'll get to it. This is called a I think this is called the terminator in there. What is it? It's hard to find. There it is. Yes, it's called terminator. This denotes where your flowchart begins and ends. Some folks use a circle for begin, whatever. I think use that for begin and end, and used in conjunction with this one, there will actually be more useful information inside that. Now this one's pretty neat. This one is where you make decisions. So if you go into it, and if something's true, you do one thing. If it's false, you do the other thing. Again, we'll get to that. This one's going to be in part 2. We'll first see this one in part 3, but it'll also be important in part 4. So that's what all of those things are. And you may ask, I'm going to delete these. You may ask, okay, what good does this template do me? If you select something, and at least in Windows, there's probably something equivalent in Mac. I'm not as familiar with that, but if you select it first, now I'm pushing the control key, and then drag it over here. Oh, there you go. You've dragged a copy. So what you can do is very quickly, using the control, I didn't have it selected, key, is to make a lot of copies of stuff and line them up, and that makes creating your flowchart a little less tedious. And of course you can put in other things here, depending on what you need, and you can take your arrows, you can do the same thing with them, though they're a little bit more finicky about copying. That one copied okay. And that's why I suggest making a little template if you're going to be doing very much flowcharting. We're almost done with this tutorial. There's one last thing that I want to mention, and that is, I'll go ahead and delete this. And that is, remember I said if it's true you do one thing, if it's false you do another thing. Well, how do you know which one is which? Well, you actually label it true or false, and that's the point of this file that I have open. Now actually, since you're watching this video, you'll recognize this. I think it's in the next section. Anyway, a little bit below this video, you'll see this figure. You'll see this figure in the course. So, but again, so there's a true and a false here, and I barely managed to squeeze those in. So how do you create those? Pretty simple. You just go up here and insert a text box and just double click, and then you can right click it and say, oops, it did not work that way. Okay, we'll double click text box, double click it. Instead of trying to make sure we click it, well, you've got a couple options. You can actually double click there, now right click, and then you can go to your character and change it. Let's say 8. That's what it is in this picture, I believe. To make it a little smaller than these, which I believe is 10. So you can do that, and then of course that text box acts kind of like a shape, so you can move it, and you can hold control and make a copy of it, just like that. I'm going to delete that, and delete it, Oops, it went inside instead of actually selecting the box. There we go. Box there, it's deleted. So the other way that you can change that is, I think it's under, yeah. So format, and then you can get to your character, and you can set the font size there. One last thing. You may be asking, okay, this is wonderful. How do I get this into a different program or use it somewhere else? Well, if you want to be able to edit it in the future, you need to save a copy so this is ODG. You need to save it in the LibreOffice Draw format. Not sure what other formats they offer, but you need to save it in that format if you want to come back and edit it. If you need it in a graphic format, so that then you can just paste it into whatever at any time. If you want to save it as a graphic file, you can save it there, you see, with PDF. So let's see, okay, here it says GIF. Yes, I say GIF instead of GIF. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. Anyway, let's see. These are other formats that you can save. These are your graphical formats. I do want to make a little note here. Say if you want to, let's see, there's my JPEG, right? If you want to save it as a JPEG, well, any graphic, there's going to be another, when you click save, there's going to be something else to come up, and this is what I want to point out. So you can say, what kind of type of resolution do I want? Well, you can increase that resolution, 47, you could increase it to 100 or something like that. But I don't know if you noticed, but your width and height decreased. So the thing is you've still got that same number of pixels, so you didn't really increase your resolution. I mean, it's going to be just as grainy. It's just not going to show up as big. So in order to you can change these units. Okay. So let's change it to pixels. We'll just leave it pixels per centimeter. That'll work fine. But anyway, so resolution 100, all of this, just to demonstrate, if we just change our resolution to 100, it saved it. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, again, file, export. We'll save it as that. I think it does the same thing with GIFs as it does JPEGs. Anyway, we'll go back and do the JPEG again. Okay, so yes, we want to replace it. Okay, so we're at pixels right there. So notice you've got 1020 and 1320. If you change this resolution, oh, I did the same thing again. It's like muscle memory. Export JPEG. Well, at least you're going to get really good at this, right? Okay, save. Yes, let's replace it. If you change this to 100, let me click over here, not hit return. It's not going to want, there we go. We'll just click in that box. You'll see that it didn't actually change your number of pixels. So you're not actually going to get any better resolution. If you want better resolution, you can definitely get it. What you need to do is change, and you can look down here, it needs about how much memory, is you change the width. Now let's change this to 2000. See, and it automatically adjusts your height. So now you've actually got a lot more pixels. So if you need more resolutions, the default, you don't get very high resolution out of these pictures. All right, so we got that going on, and then you click OK. and then you save it, and then you can open your picture and you can do whatever with it. Okay, so I hope this is helpful to get you started on creating flowcharts. Again, if you're going to create very many, you might want to go ahead and format out a template. You can always change your text size, your shape size, and everything like that. But this does give you a free option for creating flowcharts on your computer for the course. It is a bit tedious, but flowcharts definitely have their place. All right, well, good luck with your flowcharting. This concludes another video for Introduction to Programming with C++, brought to you by LogiKomp. You can access the full course by going to the course homepage at logikomp.com/introcpp. While we are proud to offer this course free of cost to individuals, we do ask that if you continue to use the course, that you support its production and maintenance by making at least a small purchase from LogiKomp Domains and Hosting. You can pick up a custom domain, renewable annually, for around $10 at logikomp.com/hosting. Thank you.